Okay.
Okay,
Can everyone hear me?
let's see. Yep, audio's back. Looks like everyone can hear it now that there's no video.
Perfect.
I think we're gonna be doing well.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all for joining. Pumped to talk to you about content marketing and specifically my 8-step content marketing and content creation process. It's the most important part of content marketing because if you get this right, everything else works well. If you get this wrong, nothing you can do can actually work. And so I'll walk you through kind of the process I use. We use this for our agency or internal, as well as for all of our clients. And so I want to share this with you. Talia introduced me already, but for those of you who couldn't hear or whatnot, I run a marketing agency called Webprofits. We focus very much on growth, so multiple channels, as well as optimizing different parts of the funnel. I also have a handful of SaaS businesses under the company Ramp Ventures. So you might have heard of things like Mailshake, Narrow.io, Quuu, which is Quuu.co, and a few others that we've built and acquired, again, just growing them all around marketing and sales. So essentially these tools came about because we needed them for ourselves. And so some of them we built, some of them we bought, but either way, we kind of are sharing them and growing them. So before I jump into, the long-winded approach to content marketing, there's really one simple rule. It's stop creating mediocre content and start creating epic content, something that's truly unique, something that's not been done before. Now, what I mean by this is it doesn't necessarily need to be 100% unique, but it needs to be better than what's out there. And that's what I mean by epic content. And I'll explain this. The reason being is that there's just so much content right now. There's content fatigue, and there's probably an article on almost every single topic you can think of. So that means you have to be better than that. And that's what I'm going to walk you through today. And as an example, I practice what I preach. This is all everything here I'm showing you is actually the process we use, and we've gotten some serious results from it. So last year we got around 8.5 million page views, a little more than 2,600 backlinks. Our agency got around a little under 400 leads, and our SaaS businesses got a little under 8,000 trials. Most of them have a free trial or at least some sort of way to check it out. And we drove 8,000 using predominantly content and a book deal, a potential book deal. And I've written a book called 100 Days of Growth, which is self-published in 2015. Sold a ton of copies, and what I realized when I was pitching the book idea, I hit up a few publishers and I got rejected completely. They're like, "Nope, don't think there's something here." Blah blah blah. One excuse after the other. This time around, it came inbound. I literally just got an email in my inbox saying, "Hey, ever thought about writing a book?" And it's one of the largest publishers. So this is all from content marketing, and they literally said like, "Hey, I've seen you all around the web. I love your content." Blah blah blah. So it was really truly a from content marketing effort. So here's the thing though. That's not the case for most people. Most blogs are ghost towns. And there's really a couple reasons for that. The first and foremost reason is your content is just crap. What I mean by this is you didn't put enough time into it. It's not meaty enough, or maybe too focused on you. And the number two reason is it's boring. Nobody cares. It's about you. First of all, don't write content about you. Don't write sales. Like if you're starting a blog or you're starting to build up content marketing, your content marketing efforts, don't focus about you. Focus about the value for your audience. If you make it all about them, they're going to want to know more about you. And then the way you can talk about yourself is essentially by including yourself in the story, in an example, right? So in the previous couple slides, I talked about myself and the results I've gotten. But the reason I share those results is to show you that what I'm about to share is impactful. So it's all about essentially the audience, and so and your visitors. And so make sure whatever content you write is better than something that's out there before. If it's going to be on the same topic or the same idea, make sure you have a unique approach, a take, a unique voice. So you can produce the exact same information, but if you did it in a satire way, or if you did it in a hilarious way, or let's just say you had examples for every single point you're trying to make, or case studies, or customer, again, like influencer quotes or something different, that's going to help you drastically stand out, and it's going to help you prevent these sad little ghost towns that most blogs are. All right, so here's the process. It's 8 steps from idea, outline, and I'll go through each one of these in the next 30 minutes, all the way to promotion. Now, what's funny is, what's missing is, this is actually a screenshot of a whiteboard at Webprofits that we when we were hiring a few content marketers and editors, and I did a team meeting. I was like, guys, here's our process. Here's the exact thing we use. And, halfway through the meeting, as I was on like step 7, somebody raised their hand and was like, hey, where is the actual writing of the content? Where is that part? And it's funny because that's how much these steps mean. This is how important these other steps are, that they trump the actual writing. Now, the writing happens between 4 and 5. But at the end of the day, that's not the only part that's important. These other 8 steps technically would be 9 if you include, write the actual article. But it's very, very important that you have the outline. And I'll tell you why in a few minutes. But at the end of the day, make sure you're going through, maybe it might not be your own 8 steps. This is to, hopefully inspire you, or you can take some of these action items and apply it to your process. But take 1 or 2 or 3 and make your own process out of this. And at the end of the day, it should be more than just you have an idea and you write the article and you hit publish, because those are the easy parts. The other things are very, very difficult. All right. The next thing is to spend most of your time on marketing your content. That's right. So a lot of people are like, oh, I created this content. It's not going well. What do I do? Help me. I'm stuck. And I asked them, what'd you do to promote it? And like, well, I shared it on social media, and I shared it on my Facebook. I emailed my list. I'm like, no, you did the bare minimum to publish an article. You didn't do content marketing. You published a blog post. You published an article. You did the content part of content marketing. So make sure you spend enough time on the marketing part. And again, I'll walk you through this in the ideation phase and the outline of how to do promotion. And Talia will send over at the end of this a video I actually just did yesterday with the guys at HubSpot on content promotion. We shared about 18 tips, 9 of them for short term, 9 of them for long term, and whatnot. But anyways, it comes down to spending time. If you don't spend the time on this, you don't have an emphasis on this, it's not going to work. So here's how my team is structured. We have a content strategist. Their job is to essentially come up with all the ideas. They're the ones who are driving the content vehicle. We have a researcher, editor. Their job is essentially help when the outline is done to provide facts and find information, find maybe quotes, case studies, examples, essentially making sure the article has enough meat to it. And then at the end, when the article is done, an editor. I have a copy and paster, and yes, most of their job is to actually just copy and paste. And it's a little bit more than that, because when you upload a blog post to a CMS or wherever you're putting it, it could get choppy. You might need to know a little bit of HTML. You might need to edit some images, but ultimately their job is to essentially upload the content. And this way, the content strategist, the researcher, is not wasting their time doing these things. Once it's handed off, we know it's going to be scheduled and whatnot. We have a full-time person dedicated to content promotion. Their job is to simply, when the article is about to go live, they know what's on their plate that week and all the things they're going to do. And again, I will walk you through some of those things. We have an outsourced design and development team. You should be making beautiful images to go along with your content. If you can customize subheadings, the more you can put into design, the better the article is going to come across. To be honest, when you have a mediocre article and you add design elements to it, it appears like it's well done. At the end of the day, when a human being is reading this or comes to your blog or potentially comes to your site, it's going to pass the 10-second sniff test, right? You're going to get their attention, you're going to keep their attention, and then they can keep reading on. And let's just say it does well, you can expand to it. And lastly, advertising. This is a core part of our team. Even though it's not a physical person, we spend some money on advertising each one of our articles to help get the ball rolling. All right, so here's some tools I use. And I'm sharing this because everybody here could use this. So I break down things into 3 parts, and this is exactly how the rest of this presentation is broken down. We have the ideation and research, the writing, and the promotion. Now for ideation and research, we use BuzzSumo, Ahrefs, Moz, SEMrush. So BuzzSumo to check how popular something has been or what has been popular on a specific topic. Ahrefs and Moz, more so for checking out what articles have good links, where can we go reach out to those people. SEMrush to do our keyword research to make sure whatever topic we're writing on has potential to rank or gain evergreen traffic. The writing part, we use Trello, Google Docs, and I have a little picture of a phone here. I actually use my phone audio recording to start some blog posts. I actually used to write talk on my blog post and record it on my car drive to and from work. And I had an outline in front of me and I recorded it, and then I had somebody transcribe it, and then I edited it. And that was just because I sucked at writing something from scratch with a blank screen, a blinkering cursor, and I just got stuck. So I started with audio, transcribed it, and then when I had something on to edit, it was easier for me to do it. Another tool that's super awesome is Wordable. Wordable replaces that copy and pasting. So if you have it turns a Google Doc or doc into, it can upload it to your WordPress, so it saves you some time. And then for promotion, we have Mailshake and Quuu. Quuu Promote specifically. Full disclaimer, both of those are my tools. And again, we made them because we wanted to use them ourselves. And we also use Facebook ads. Again, just to get the ball rolling, we use Mailshake to do outreach, Quuu Promote to get submitted to relevant categories and get gets it in front of tens of thousands of people, and essentially ends up getting anywhere between 50 to a couple hundred shares pretty instantaneously. But again, all of these things is to help spark the momentum. So let's jump into it, because I've talked a lot about the process, the back end. I'm sure you're dying to hear about what the actual ideation to promotion process is. So step 1, ideation. At the end of the day, remember that rule, that quote I sent you or I shared earlier. There's one rule that kind of goes along with it. Focus on creating something significantly better or different than your best competitor. If you do this, you're going to consistently be the leader. This is the bar we try to set. Now remember, this is the bar you set for yourself. It's not necessarily what you're going to hit every single time. I can say probably 40% of our articles that we start out with going to be awesome, that we want to be this bar, actually end up being as good as we think they are. So it's not that every single post is going to be that way and be the best, but if you aim high, at least you have a better chance of hitting that. So once we come up with ideas, and in order to come up with ideas, we do research. What I like to do is, 1, study my competition. Who are they? What are they writing? What content are they creating? How often are they doing it? What has worked for them? I like to find the top keywords in the industry, in my industry or that industry. I'm looking for what keywords are people searching for that are transactional. What are other keywords? What are all the keywords around that specific space? And then what I try to do is validate demand for something. So I use BuzzSumo. So let's just say we're going to talk about pencils. Well, I find all the keywords related to pencils, maybe even pens, because it might compare to pencils. And then I go into BuzzSumo and I type in pens. I type in some of my keywords and I try to find what has done well around pencils, right? What are content pieces that have done well? If there's nothing, there's a good chance that whatever you're going to write about pencils may not do well. Another thing I do is I look in forums, Facebook group, Quora to find common questions or common conversations that are happening. Why? Because I can literally take that conversation and create an article around it. If I have a common question on Quora, that might be the validation of demand I need. And essentially I can write about it. And the last thing I do is look for content gaps. And what I mean by this is like, what, with all the competitors out there, all the content out there in your space, what topics aren't being talked about? What's something that hasn't been discussed? Or what's something that's been discussed, but it was a long, long time ago? And what I mean by long, long time ago, this is internet years, so 2-3 years. Because frankly, that if it's been done, if it ranks, it's been done a while ago, generally means there's some demand. And that means if you do something better than that, it could work. But at the end of the day, if you find those gaps, find people talking about conversations, and you look and study your competition, you're going to get a good idea of what to do, or where to get started. It might not give you all of the ideas, but then it gives you the right amount of detail or research and information to come up with good ideas. And I have 5 ways I use to brainstorm. And there's a blog post that you can kind of read that shares a lot more in depth about these processes. I use freestorming, and literally I start with a word and I just see what comes to my mind. So I've made sure I've done this research, because if you have the research, it's kind of in your head. You don't worry about like it being formalized or like written next to you or looking at it when you do this freestorming or ideation. Just make sure it's you understand it. So freestorming is like what comes to your head when you write a word or a phrase, and then come up with like maybe that phrase comes to another idea. So it's just brainstorming, but you're allowing your mind to kind of roam freely around that thought or idea or that topic. And generally I get a couple ideas. Another way I brainstorm is using associative brainstorming. Content circles is another way I like to call this. And what I mean by this is I start with a whiteboard or piece of paper and I write the main keyword, the main topic. So let's just say it's pencils, right? Pencils is a fairly broad topic. So pencil stays in the middle, and I'm going to think of what comes to mind when I think of pencils. So I got pens, I got stationery, I got office supply, I got writing, and these are all little thought bubbles that kind of are all circling around pencils. It might be, an artist. It might be, there's so many different things, calligraphy and things like that. So all of these things are topics that circle your main industry. So what this means is go back with those topics, those keywords, into the research phase and see if there's any gaps or things you can find there. Why? Because look, yes, you might be selling a pencil, but the person buying a pencil might be a calligrapher, an artist. It might be an office manager buying office supplies. So might as well write content around those people and their pain points and what they're trying to do, not what you're trying to sell. So next thing is customers' problems. Again, if you don't know what to write about, literally email your audience. If you have an email list or if you have 100 sales or transactions or customers or more, email them and say, hey, what's your biggest problem? Let them email you back open-ended, or create a Google form or something of that nature and get feedback. I literally did this the other day with my email list at Mailshake. And I was like, hey guys, I emailed my top 500 most active customers and said, hey, look, I want you to beta test this. P.S. Anything you want to hear about. And, we got probably a couple dozen people asking for feedback or asking for content topics, or not necessarily suggesting topics, but they were asking for me to write about this and that and the other. And so then I validated it with that research phase, with validating the demand and looking at the top keywords and seeing if there's anything been written out it. And I'm going to move forward on some of them. And the last thing is to zoom in or out of a popular article. So let's just say an article has been written on the 100 different types of pencils, right? Really boring topic, but you'll get the gist here. So again, When you zoom in, it might be zooming in on like one specific pencil and talking about why it's the most popular or the most common, or maybe the evolution of that one specific pencil. You zoom out, it might just be like, here's all the things here's all the most common things at an office or in your desk, or like, again, zooming in or out of the article, of a popular article, you're automatically validating demand. You know people have been interested in this, and then you could be unique by essentially jumping deeper into the topic or broader. All right, so you've got all these ideas. I use, and you can use this link will help you actually load up this template. This is the exact thing we use at Webprofits. We use this Trello board. It goes from assign, in progress. So in assign, we come up with a bunch of ideas, and we literally assign it to a writer. And when it's in progress, we'll have all the notes within each card. We'll have comments, maybe there's feedback and whatnot. And then there's also like different tags for different clients we use, or different blogs it's for and whatnot. And when it's completed and reviewed, or completed, again, more comments, it's approved, and then again, we're dragging that same card from start to finish. So it keeps our ideas a little organized. It allows us to know what's happening, what's in the works, and what's kind of what's been done. And again, like when I come up with new ideas, if I see that there's one that was already uploaded that's similar, maybe I want to kill that idea, or I might not want to do it. All right, here's the very most important part of the content creation process. It's the outline. So you have your idea, and I urge everybody creating content to create an outline before they write, because every idea you come up with at the time sounds great. And it's not your fault if it's not great, because you've done your research, maybe there's a lot of hype, you've put in time. Sleep on it first of all. So take those ideas, come back to it later, and outline it. And come up with the 3 to 5 main points. And think about this. If those points aren't the best, or they're not as strong as what you thought they were when you came with the idea, kill the article. That's when you want to kill the ideas. Outlining will oftentimes weed out those bad ideas, because when you write those 3 to 5 points, you may realize, well, it's not meaty enough, or maybe like it's similar to what's been out there. And again, you have to be really honest with yourself here, because the worst thing you can do is create content nobody cares about. Create content that doesn't go anywhere. You might as well just have not done it. So I recommend going through a more rigorous process and reducing the amount of content you create until you've figured out the process, and then scaling it. All right, so enough about the outline, the idea, the research. Let's talk about the writing process. I like to add promotional elements into the article while I'm writing it. Why this is important is because these are the very things you'll use to promote the article later. These are the very basic things you can do to ensure the article does something. I'm not saying with these 3 things, your article is going to be huge, but it has the best chance of being successful. So first and foremost, this always works. Quote 3 to 5 influencers. Now, you can reach out to them. I do this most of the time. I reach out to influencers in the space, and I ask them for a quote related to the topic. Now, if you can't do that, or let's say you're just getting started, you don't have a brand, or your blog is new, it's unlikely influencers are going to give you a quote. So grab a quote from what they said before on some content or whatever they've said, a topic they've written about, and just grab one sentence and just reference them, quote them. When you make people look good, they will notice. The other thing is you're borrowing authority from these influencers, so it'll help you actually get the content doing a little better. I like to include some sort of data reference, like a stat, survey, some sort of research. And again, it doesn't have to be yours. If you do a survey, if it's yours, even better. But I found this significantly improves the odds and chances of you getting referenced in the future. I wrote an article years ago, I think it was 2014, on the 80-20 of content marketing. I did a ton of research, I did some stats, and I talked about the importance of content promotion. Again, 80% of your effort should be focused on content promotion. That article, because of the amount of depth into the article on that one specific topic, has been referenced dozens of times, and it's continuing to grow. In fact, it's one of my best articles that's done well for traffic and leads and whatnot. And lastly, add a click to tweet. And the reason is people might not share your article, but as they're scrolling, they might click to tweet because that one quote resonates with them. Now, the cool thing you can do is you can add number 1 and 2 as the click to tweets, right? So your click to tweet could literally be a stat, or it could be a quote from an influencer. You can tag them. And so again, it'll help you. These basic things will ensure your content has some life. I mentioned this before, that design is so important, but create a custom image. One of my favorite examples of this is CoSchedule. They have custom images for every single one of their articles. They have a couple of them laid out. And even if the article, even if they're, again, their blog is fairly good, but even when a mediocre article is there, these images really help me resonate with the brand, what they're doing, and it's actually pictures of them and whatnot. So again, they don't talk about themselves much, but they tell their story. They use images to kind of talk about themselves. But images and design will really help your content stand out. It'll help your content look like it's $1 million, even if it always isn't. I'm not saying you shouldn't make it the best article possible, but for those of you who want a shortcut, and I know I always want a shortcut, just make sure you have custom images. All right, so if you're writing and reviewing the content, I like to use Google Docs. Again, this is a real life one, leaving comments and whatnot for each part of the article. It's important that you have some sort of review process, because this is another part where you can weed out those bad ideas. If something isn't amazing, if it's not the best, if it isn't something better, you can catch it here. If you're saying the same things or it's lightweight, again, like but when you came up with that idea, you've done the outline, things could have changed since then. And so it's important to kind of have this process. This process alone will just be another gatekeeper to help you make sure an article is good. And you want to go back to the content strategist to have them review it. Just as you add images, custom images, to your article, and to help you make your design, a good design will help your article go further. Same with mixed media. Mixed media is something you can essentially grab from, that's what's out there already, right? Embed videos from YouTube, Vistia, whatever. Embed videos that help you prove your point. One of the things that not a lot of people are doing is Instagram images. You can literally embed Instagram images, and it helps you, again, soften up the article, prove your point, and there's literally Instagram images on almost anything. An e-commerce client of ours leverages this for on their sales pages, or their actually product pages. They sell like portraits of nature in all these different places. So they grab like all these images from Yosemite and all these other, like Yellowstone National Park and all these other different national parks, and they're real life images of what it looks like. So they're just sharing with you, like, okay, here's what it really looks like, and here's our portrait. It costs this much, but they're sharing with their users what it looks like in real life. And again, it just kind of changes the narrative a little bit. Slide shares, another thing. Infographics and micrographics. Now, I'm not saying you have to make your own. You can always grab a part of someone else's infographic, or you can make your own using Venngage. Easy to kind of build. They have lots of templates and whatnot. They're fairly low cost. So essentially, it's like a marketer can do it yourself, or a non-designer can create it. And lastly, use GIFs. All of these things help you kind of lighten up the reading, because at the end of the day, it's not somebody reading your article that gets you the value, gets them the value. It's them absorbing the article. And having mixed media really helps people kind of lighten the mood or set the tone. This is one of our competitors, and actually a good friend of mine, Jonathan Dane, runs this company called Client Boost. They are the best example of using mixed media. They have all these. This is you can't see it here, but it's a GIF of Homer Simpson. So they're talking about PPC, something that's kind of a marketing thing, fairly serious, kind of boring, and adding some humor throughout the article. It actually mirrors their personality, so it helps them as a company. That's how they work with people. They're kind of goofy and whatnot, but But again, mixed media helps them stand out. It's funny, it's different, it's unique, all because they might be writing about the same exact thing. There's probably hundreds of articles on PPC ad copy tips to get more conversions, but this one's different because there's humor, satire, there's entertainment value here. All right, lastly, again, Wordable is a great tool to use to upload your content. Again, it saves you a bunch of time. You can use a person for this, but I recommend not doing it yourself because you need to have time to focus on the other more important parts, which is the last part of what I want to talk about, the promotion. So the very least you need to do when you publish an article is, and this is a real life spreadsheet of an article we wrote, is write 5 or 10 social media updates. And why this is important is that you want to write 5 or 10 different parts. You don't want the social media update to be the exact same. So you can see those tweets that we have. Each part has a different emphasis. We have different quotes and whatnot. Now it's funny, Yes We're Here is a competitor of ours. This specific tweet, this is an article from late last year, actually got retweeted by them. So we quoted them, we referenced them. I personally don't mind including competitors as long as it's good content, but they retweeted us. So it's funny because these types of things will work well. And again, what I'm doing here is, and I'm not talking about myself in these tweets. I'm talking about the value that each of these people have contributed. Stelly, FD, and a couple of Litmus and whatnot. So it's all about those people, not me. Same thing with Facebook and LinkedIn. Again, sharing different parts of the article and highlights and facts. Advertise your content. Well, this slide is formatting is a little off, but advertise your content. Again, I launched Facebook ads. I take my email list and upload it and create a custom audience. I also create a lookalike audience based off of that. And so I'm targeting those people that are already on my email list or a similar criteria to my email list, which would be a lookalike audience. And I'm spending a few bucks. I typically spend like $5, $10 a day for 5 to 10 days at a time, just to get the ball rolling on the article. Because the more traffic I get, the more shares I'm going to get, because I'm going to have those mixed medias, I'm going to tweets, I'm going to influencer quotes. All this is part of the cycle. It's the minimum thing you need to do. Quick tip, use the mobile audience network in Facebook to get you really low cost per clicks. I've seen things for like 5-10 cents. And the 2 other places is Outbrain and Quuu Promote. Outbrain is another place you can advertise. You'll advertise essentially on relevant articles at the very bottom. Even large publications like CNN, Time, and a lot of these places have Outbrain ads, so you can get seen on these places. And Quuu Promote, again, it usually just ensures if the article is good enough, there's a manual review, it will get you probably anywhere between 50 to a few hundred shares and a few, again, depending on the topic and how good your copy is, a few hundred clicks as well. So easy kind of couple of things you can do just to ensure, at least there's life to this article. And lastly, email. Well, not lastly, but another thing is email. One is, first and foremost, please send an email to your list. This is the bar, like the minimum you can do. Number 2 is email everyone that you've included in the article. Just let them know, saying, hey, big fan of your work. Just referenced you in this article. Hope you like it. Any feedback, or if you want to add anything, feel free to let me know. Now, that's just my nice way of saying, hey, can you please share this? Don't ever say, can you please share this? Because it's the underlying pitch you're saying. You don't need to say, can you share this? If you ask for feedback, or if you ask them if they want to add anything more, they'll likely share it anyways because you've made them look good. Next thing is pitch your email or pitch your content to email newsletters. You'd be surprised how many newsletters there are in your industry. You can always there's probably at the very bottom of most emails, most of these newsletters, there's a, hey, have any suggestions for content? It's like tips at whatever company. Google top your keyword newsletters or top your keyword email newsletters. So if you Google top office supply newsletters, that's probably going to be very boring, but there's probably lots of office and kind of stationary arts. Again, that whole freestanding that we talked about, there might be a lot of calligraphy newsletters. It might be a lot of art newsletters. It might be all those things that are ancillary to your topic or to your industry. So make sure you look at that. And again, it will take some time to build relationships, but it does work well. And that leads me to the next thing, build relationships. I no longer have to do much content promotion. Why? Because I built, over the last 3-4 years, I built tons of relationships with smart, awesome marketers and content writers. And so, this is a screenshot of a group I'm in with Saeed and Aaron Orndorff. Both of these guys write for large publications. Aaron writes for Mashable. Saeed writes for, I think, Entrepreneur, Inc., and a couple other places. But they're looking for content. Everybody's usually looking for content. You just kind of have to be in these inner circles. And you don't get on these inner circles by asking for help. You get on these inner circles by providing help, building relationships. And it might take a while, but there's all these Slack groups, Facebook groups that are behind the scenes that are people helping each other out. So make sure you can to focus on building relationships with people in your industry. And just to squeeze out as much value as you can from your content, repurpose your best content. YouTube, SlideShare, iTunes, Medium, LinkedIn. Why these places? Because all of these places have 100 million plus users. So if you can just get a fraction of that penetration in YouTube or LinkedIn or Medium or even SlideShare or create a podcast, it's just another way to maximize that. You're gonna get more value to your content. And what I often do, you might notice this on my YouTube channel, is it's very much similar content to what I've created in the past. It's usually my best content, so I've validated that it works, so I put more effort into it. And it's usually shortened versions of it, or I'm giving the abridged version, or I'm zooming in on 1 or 2 points. But essentially, the idea comes from an article. Well, thank you guys. We'll open up for some questions, and we'll go from there.